Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How's everyone doing today?
It's
a good day. It's a good day.
Good day. We're here, right? We're going to talk
Yeah.
about creative things. It's going to be fun. So excited to have all these folks here from all over.
Yeah, it's so exciting to see where everyone's from. Thanks, everyone, for popping in your locations. It's so cool.
Yeah. We were talking about that before, that it's wonderful to see how far and wide everybody is coming in from. It's pretty neat.
Absolutely.
So let's start with an introduction to everybody. I can hop on first since I'm talking.
Alphabetically.
I'm Estrella. Sure.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. I'm Estrella Taylor, and I'm the author of 4 books with Llewellyn, inspiring creativity through magic, modern witchcraft with the Greek gods, air magic, and intuitive witchcraft. And I'm a pagan witch from Ohio.
I guess I'm next. We have alphabetic abilities here. So, hey, everybody. I'm Laura Tempest Sakharov, or LTZ. And I've written numerous books with Llewellyn, as well as 2 oracle decks, including Visual Alchemy, which is part of the inspiration for today, Weave the Liminal, Anatomy of a Witch, Sigil Witchery, and other assorted titles. And I'm coming to you from New England, where it's very rainy.
Okay, I'm Mickey Mueller. Hi, everybody. I'm an author. I'm an illustrator. I'm a busy person all the times. I wrote The Witch's Mirror. I wrote Llewellyn's Little Book of Halloween, and my upcoming book with Ivo Dominguez Jr., Ivo Dominguez Jr., I always get that wrong, which Laura also wrote with, and I think a bunch of other authors have, is the Aquarius Witch, which I'm really excited about.
Nice.
And yeah, I've been writing and illustrating for Llewellyn for, I don't even know how long. It's probably been like, I don't know, 18, 20 years maybe. I've illustrated some tarot decks, and I sell my art all over the world, and it's a pretty cool gig. And I am in Missouri, in kind of the armpit of America right now. It's hot, it's muggy, but I'm cool and happy because I'm here with all of you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Henderson. I just turned in my first book to Llewellyn. I have 3 others with them. So Witchy, which is my sewing magic book. The Scent of Lemon and Rosemary, which is working domestic magic with Hestia. And then my next one that's coming out in December is The Natural Home Wheel of the Year. I'm a witch crafter with an emphasis on the crafter part of the equation. And I am out in Wyoming, where I'm not ready for the fall yet. It's rainy today, but I would like a little more summer.
I wish I could give you my summer. Very hot and humid here.
Summer too. The heat, but not the humidity. You don't want that.
Okay, we have our first question. How do you define creativity? Is it limited to artistic endeavors, or do you feel that creativity applies to other facets of our lives? Mickey, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I feel really passionate about. I think that a lot of people come at the idea of creativity and they say, oh, well, I'm not creative, because they're not an artist. And creativity is innate to all humans. We all are creative. If we weren't creative, we wouldn't be here on computers, living in houses. Back in the day, somebody started banging rocks together and saw that it flaked off and said, that's sharp. I can make a tool out of that. And everything else grew up from there. So yes, we use our creativity to be artistic for, dance and for, visual arts and writing and music and the arts, as we, look at them, and that they're really important, and we need to support the arts more. But anybody who thinks, that you're not creative because you're not artistic, I want you to look back in time and remember who told you that? Because they were wrong. So deconstruct that. And there's so many other ways that we are creative. I mean, even people who are mathematicians are creative, scientists are creative. It's how we come up with new ideas as human beings. So everything that you see was created by somebody.
Totally agree. Yeah. And if anyone has any questions, they can pop them in the chat.
Yeah.
I think it's also going
Go ahead.
into defining creativity, right, is the ability to imagine, right, to play, to be inspired. And we're here not just talking about creativity, but obviously we're all linked to Llewellyn, so we're having a magical focus on this. And I think in order to really work effective magic, you have to have creativity. You have to be able to visualize, which is a large spectrum, not just like see and draw it, but to feel it and to hear it and to taste it, to bring that into the world. And so it's that creatrix energy that, as Mickey was saying, everybody's capable of doing. So seeing it not just as a limited tiny thing, but everywhere.
And it is a big part of magic. It's what witches do. We create something out of nothing. It's what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mickey, you brought up some of those traditional ways that we view art, but I can also see it in like someone's baking or cooking. I can see it in landscaping or things like just feng shui and arranging a home. I'm sure, Rachel, you know all about that kind of stuff too. And you probably have a lot more to say about all that. But I think that they're all arts and they're all worthy of appreciation, and they all enhance our lives and our magic as well.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I think that anything that people do is an act of creation because you're making real your thoughts. And so yeah, we tend to view creativity through a very specialist, very specific lens, which I think tends to then make people think, well, I can't do that, or like Mickey said, I'm not artistic or I'm not creative. And I think that that's one of the nice thing about this group of people, and what we do is expanding on pushing on those boundaries and pushing on those definitions so that we make more room for people to then see themselves and go, oh, well, I'm a computer programmer, but I'm also creative, or I am a baker, I bake for my family, and that's an act of creation. So I love that we are able to do that, to kind of be like, no, come into the tent with us. It's fun. We have cookies because we have bakers.
All about the cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I saw a really cool question about creative blocks. And I think that we can all say that we've experienced that as artists. And I think, the biggest one that you have to get over is the first one. It's the fear of putting yourself out there. Usually you're just trying something new or expanding your mind to redefine who you think you are. And I think that's where magic can help too, with that first creative block that you experience. But then as you go along, and if you get stuck in other places, I think magic can help there as well. Breaking through those blocks often means looking at things from another perspective, or really defining what the block is, and then how we feel about it and what we can do about it.
Yeah, especially as someone, I live with depression and anxiety, and so we'll often have moments where, especially like self-doubt, will come in, and you have those voices in the back of your head saying, what are you doing? You're not creative and all that. And I find that for stuff like that, I often end up turning to my magic to help me work through that and deal with those kind of setbacks so that I can get back to the work of creation, be like, no, I'm actually creative and what I'm doing is worth it, and back off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like to take a combined magical and very physical effect when I'm reaching a place of blocks or like just getting started. And that's like, what is my working space like? Right? Is my desk organized? Are the things ready to go, or is there stuff all around? Right. So there's this very physical cleansing that happens and organizational part, which it takes the panic off of your mind because you're doing this very mundane organizational type of thing, and it gets you almost excited, right? It's like, ooh, I'm preparing all the ingredients, and then I might light a candle or some incense, or if it's working with a deity, bringing out like a mini altar for that, so that I'm prepared, right? And just start somewhere too. I think that's the thing, is like it's that first moment of putting the brush down to the pencil and paper, whatever's happening, just make a mess first. Just do it. It'll be great. Just like dive in.
Hmm.
And then it's like when you're swimming, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to get wet. It's just dive in. Just dive in. It'll be fine. You'll figure it out.
I totally agree with that, Laura. And I'm the same way. I have ADHD, so I have like the messy desk all of the times. I have the messy computer where I can't find anything. And then on top of that, I have the rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So that you get that feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, So yeah, it can be really hard. And these are things that can make us very stuck when we want to be creative, and it just sticks us up. So yeah, definitely clearing the desk off and doing it in a magical way to me is super important, because yeah, I'll physically clean it, and then I've got my incense going, like you said, and kind of cleanse the space.
Hmm.
One of the other things that I found that really helps me out is I will literally do just a little mini spell with the focus of it being on breaking through, getting that creativity going, and I'll light some, like a candle, and do like put some oil on it, just to kind of maybe like rosemary or a citrusy or something, just to kind of break through that. And I feel like almost the action of doing that allows me permission to access that creative part of myself, and it can really help with the block. And then the other thing that I do when I'm totally blocked is I will go and do something that's completely outside of anything that I would normally do. Like, I can't stand country music, so I would go I would like go to a bar where I know they're playing country music and just sit around and watch the people. And it just like gets you outside of your comfort zone, whatever that thing is that you normally would never do. Go do that thing. And that kind of can shake things up and get things moving again too.
So somebody asked for a really specific way and how they can break through their blocks of using magic. I made a ritual for myself in my writing of books. I wrote 2 fiction books before my Llewellyn books, and it really helped me to bring in the elements. So I was using like music and aromatherapy, like you were talking about. I was also using a candle to kind of mirror my creative energy, lighting the candle with the intention that I'm going to have some creative time and we're just going to sit down and see what happens. Or a specific goal, like I'm going to write a chapter or I'm going to come up with a dance to the song. And the music really helps me get in that mindset. And then having a beverage, bringing in the water aspect, being hydrated is always important, of course. And then being in the physical place. You can use crystals and or herbs if you want to use some more physicality. But in the writing community, we have this term called AIC, which is basically like butt in the chair. I'm paraphrasing here, but just get in your creative space and put your fingers on your keyboard, or put your fingers on your flute, or pick up your dancing props and just start to get that going. And then once you have kind of that vibration or feeling of what it is you're doing, I feel like it kind of unrolls like a ritual. It's kind of like an opening circle where you're like, okay, now we are in this sacred space and I'm going to create. And here we are. I have my intention and my goals, and we're going to see what magical things happen. And I found that that was a way for me to actually work with a creative spirit as well, which has helped me get some more inspiration. It's kind of like you get energy source from all different kind of sources. You can get it from the earth, the celestials, deities, any kind of spirit. And the creative spirit is just another one like that, just the dump of inspiration. It really helped me write my 6 books that I've written so far. I have ADHD too, and honestly, I wouldn't have written them if I didn't have that ritual. So I think that's a really good concrete way that you can kind of think of for yourself to figure out what your creative correspondences are and what will help you get in that mindset.
There's a question over here now of going off of Mickey's mini spell. What are some ways your witchcraft informs your creativity slash artistic pursuits and vice versa?
Well, I mean, I can start with that. One of the things that I started doing years ago, I can't even tell you what year I started doing it. When I would sit down to work on my artwork, one of the first things that I would do is I would like say, you know, if I was going to illustrate a deity, I would gather together herbs that I know are associated with that deity, and I would put them into a tea ball and basically make a brew, an infusion. And it wasn't really adding any color, but it was adding that energy. It's it's like I'm setting the intention. I'm creating magical art, and that is the water that infusion. That was the water I'd use for my watercolors. For me, this helped me to connect with the deity that I was working on a much higher level. It kind of opens up, and I would not all the time, and everybody here is creative, so I know that you have had these moments where you're channeling and you don't really know where it came from, and you've worked on your art or your dance or your book, and you've worked on it for like 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes, and then you look back at it, you're like, oh, where did this even come from? Because you were channeling. And that's one of the things that I started doing a long time ago, and I love doing it. When I'm not working with watercolor, I at least try to have oils or herbs or something, just to be like, this is the moment. This is the, and you're right. Absolutely, what you were saying, Estrella, about it being sacred space. That moment of creation is sacred space. That I have altars all over my house, but the best altar, the most powerful altar, is my freaking art table, right?
Absolutely. It's the place of action, right? Altars are where the action
Right.
happens. And when we're
Yeah.
making art, and whether that's, in a studio space or a dance space or in the kitchen, right? That's the sacred space of where it's happening. And for me, when it comes to where witchcraft and art and creativity all intersect, is I say art is my primary form of spellcraft. And so it's not only how I'm working magic, but it's also the lens that I view the world through. It's how I bring myths and deities and spirits into this realm for me to explore, but also it's even more, not just for me as part of the process and the journey, it's the end result that other people experience, right? So like in creating an oracle, it's like, it's not just for me, it's here's a need, let's be creative, let's talk to the spirits, let's create something that connects to our bodies. How do I use vision and words in order to do that? Or how do I create a dance ritual so that people get into their bodies? So it is, as Mickey's saying, the channel, right? It's like, this is why we have a body, this is why we're here. And to me, that's the most exciting part. And it always makes me sad when people deny themselves that process, like, oh, I can't do it. Like, you never use can't in magic. Like, no, unless you're decanting.
Yeah, I think I came to the approach of working magic into my craft from a very practical standpoint. I got divorced in 2008 and had a 4-year-old and was like, okay, I have to do something to support us until she's at least old enough to go to school. And so when I was sewing, I would incorporate my magic into my sewing. So I would use green-headed pins to bring in that money. I'd be writing sigils on my sewing machine and have my little jar of, with mint and rice and coins in it to put by my where I was taking money. And it's just over the years, it's just grown to where when you do it enough, that you it just comes naturally. It's like, whatever you're doing, you end up incorporating the magic into what you're doing or looking at it through the view of how does this uh, support not only my mundane needs, but also my magical goals. And I think that oftentimes we try to view them as separate, And the minute you start looking at them as, no, these are just two sides of the same coin, or, two ways to get to the same goal, that it becomes easier. And so if you're looking to use your magic in your creative practice, start with some of the suggestions or some of the things that people have been talking about. Create a ritual around it, create sacred space. Look at, okay, I'm sweeping the floor or I'm doing the dishes. How can that also be a magical act? It's intentional. I think that a lot of us feel that stuff like that should come intuitively, and eventually it will, but you have to be deliberate at the beginning.
Yeah, agree. Especially with those intentions. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people just wait for something to come out, but really, you need to take a little bit of time to set that intention right up front about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see, what other questions do we have here?
I'm looking at, okay.
Oh, there's a new one from Llewellyn there. As do any of you have used music when making magic? How so?
I know Laura does.
Very quickly, because mine's little, I will use music for sound cleansing. I find that
nice.
when I don't need to, or I can't burn a smoke bundle or something like that, I will cue up Nina Simone's Feeling Good, and that tends to clear out the space really well.
Great song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I have a Rich Witch Bitch playlist. Things are tight, everybody, and I've been doing DoorDash occasionally, and when I'm doing it, I'm playing my Rich Witch Bitch playlist in the car.
Nice.
To manifest wealth. So there's one.
I feel like music really helps me get into that theme of my art. So, I mean, one of my books was a young adult fantasy. And so I had a whole playlist about the songs that my character might listen to. Kind of dark and brooding stuff. Beautiful. And then, for writing books, some of them, I just felt like some of them were being channeled through. So that was more trance stuff. When I was being creative and doing scientific discipline stuff for my degrees, it was more like the Baroque music. And then fire dancing, when I do that, it's all about the drama and excitement. So I feel like whatever music sets you on fire and lets you feel that inspiration is the right music for your art.
Definitely.
It does shift you too, doesn't it? It shifts you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a dancer, like I can dance to anything that moves me, but when it comes to making art and to writing, like when I'm writing, I can't have anything with words in it. And it's funny, is like since going all the way back to my first book with The Witch's Cauldron, I've found different sort of playlists online and different actual instrumental pieces on YouTube that like 6 hours long. And when I'm in this bind point where I'm like, I got to get through this, I click that on and my brain's like, I'm hearing the noise that I need to make. This is like, here we go. This is the final stretch to get in there, versus when I am working on art, I can listen to anything musically, but I really love stories. I love listening to stories and podcasts when I'm creating art. And sometimes that sends me on a whole different thing. I'll get interrupted by a myth. I'm like, hold on, I have to make art for this right now. Too.
I have to say,
Beautiful.
Laura, that brought a lot up for me, because you and I both are artists and writers. Well, really everybody here is. But do you guys find the same? Because I am that way too. If I'm doing visual art, I can have anything on. I got Netflix going, or like you said, a podcast. I'm listening to like murder stories or whatever. But if I'm writing, no lyrics at all. It has to be just music alone, and sometimes I'll even put on like music that's just for focus. Is that for you too, Rachel and Estrella? Do you find that also to be true?
Back when I was writing fiction, yeah,
Yeah.
And I would like Estrella, I'd make playlists that were uh, encompassing what the story was going to be. But now that I've focused mostly on nonfiction, I just have to have something to distract my back brain. So I've done everything from podcasts uh, to ASMR and like
Yeah.
hair brushing videos. I'm like, yeah, put that on for an hour just to keep my all of those intrusive thoughts to go be over there, babysit them while I do work.
It helps.
Agree. We don't need to be distracted when we're doing our art. We need to be
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah.
Here is a great question I just saw. How do we protect ourselves from burnout to ensure we keep enjoying what we do? I have a wonderful answer for this. I
Big one.
rest. I rest a lot. We can all relate to this, right? But I consciously shift into resting modes. So I recharge my own battery in a way. I kind of see it like that. But instead of just kind of like floating in and out of stuff, it's a really conscious decision. And then I set the intention that this rest is going to be great for me. It's going to recharge my body, my brain, my thoughts. And if I notice I'm feeling burnt out, I just take more breaks. But I really feel like we do have to be intentional about that because sacrificing for art isn't necessarily the most healthy thing. Yes, we have deadlines, but we really have to take care of ourselves so we can have that higher quality output. I feel like when I take breaks, it serves me better. And I love going on vacations or little trips or going to the woods just to get out of my normal day to day. It really helps my mind kind of just break away from that churning feeling. Anyone else want to talk about burnout, preventing it?
I've come up with I'm a workaholic and I've gotten a lot better in the last few years. Yay, I'm recovering, right? But one of the things I kind of remind myself is nobody's going to die if the art doesn't get done. Right? Or if you don't get the art like in the next few days, like it's not a life or death consequence type of thing. So it's important for me to take care of myself. And to also make sure whatever I'm doing that I'm fully invested in it too. I think we often get burned out when we're not getting the return that we need from it, or it's not something we're fully in love with, and we just are like, oh, I'll do it for the money. And then when you like do it for the money's not worth it. It's not worth it. Which seems like hard when you're like, I really like to eat food and I have cats that want to eat me. But the thing is, like, I also, as a magical practitioner, it sounds silly to say I trust in the universe, but it's like, if I believe in the rhythm and the pattern of things, which I've known to be true again and again, then things are going to work out. And I'll be in a better position for it by not overdoing it. So as Destra said, take those naps, take those rests, but also you don't have to do all the things. That would be the big one. You don't have to do all the things.
I'm mostly laughing because I have not learned yet how to deal with burnout because I am an Aries and a type A personality and a workaholic, and the problem is my work, I enjoy it. Like this is the issue is you enjoy what you're doing. And so for me, I'm enjoying it until suddenly I'm not. And then all of a sudden I have a blow up. So and then I don't want to do anything. I'm working on that. That's what therapy is for. But mostly I've just learned to surround myself with people who are understanding, and I have a wonderful husband who is just like, okay, I saw this coming. I saw the signs and this was coming and I'm already ready for you. Here's your wine and let's get you tucked into bed. And so I think becoming very aware of yourself, like, and don't be afraid to ask for help is my two big comments on that and maybe one of these days I will be better at it.
You will.
So I'm laughing too because I'm where Rachel is. I'm like, burnout, what's that? I can work till midnight every night. I'll just keep going. And this is like how I've handled my whole art career, basically. I mean, back when I first started doing this, and I was like, my very first project with Llewellyn was the Well-Worn Path. I was working a full-time job. And then I would come home and draw until like my eyes were bleary and I couldn't see straight or think straight. That is no way to live. So, I am also in the process of trying to teach myself that that's not going to work for me. So yeah, it's a process. Burnout is real, and you guys will notice it on my socials because all of a sudden you're hearing crickets from Mickey. Where is she? I joined this really cool group of authors over on Discord, and then I was like, I ghosted everybody. I was like, because I got all burned out, and I was like, I can't even right now. So yeah, I'm still trying to learn that lesson is to not work until you can't anymore. To that lesson that you were talking about, Estrella, and Laura, you were too, about saying, no, no, I'm going to take a break today. I'm going to go just sit in the river for 2 hours, or, dinner's over. I don't have to go get my art. I can just sit and stare at the TV for a little while. It's okay to turn off. It's hard, but I'm working on it. Don't have all the answers, that's for sure.
What I'm hearing is maybe Laura needs to come up with a sign for you don't always have to do all the things.
Yes.
Get all invested.
Hang it over our desk.
Oh, I would hang one in every room in my house.
Yeah.
I think that segues well into the question here about guilt in the creative process. And so it's like, how do you deal with guilt? But there was also someone asked a really good question about how do you build confidence? So I kind of feel like confidence, guilt, shame, fear, all of these things are right up there with, the magical process, and often things that are inhibitive to the creative process itself. So like, maybe like, how do you build confidence? Well, one part we say it's practice, right? Like everything we do, you build a practice. When we talk about magical practice or talent, really talent is building a practice, doing the thing day in and day out when you can. But at the same time, I would say, I know Mickey and I probably in the same boat of this, is like, it doesn't matter how much art you've made and how many accolades you get about it, you're still gonna be like, well, this sucks. This is never going to work out. This is a terrible piece of art. And you just kind of like grit your teeth through it. So like, you're still going to experience that because we're also human and brains.
Yep.
Magic.
Absolutely.
Magic. That's what I do. For a long time, I dealt with intrusive thoughts, those voices that would say what you're doing sucks and you can't you can't do this, and why did you even try, and why did you promise? And I ended up creating a servitor to eat those all up.
Nice.
It was a little raven dragon looking thingy that whenever I would be aware that those intrusive thoughts were coming up, it would swoop in and it would eat them up. Like, I think that's one of the things that we have in to our benefit, is because we're magical practitioners, we can rely on that. We can, if we're feeling a lack of confidence in our work, we can do spells to boost ourselves up, to find the nice things people have said about our work, and make our vision board, make our scrapbooking pages, so that you can focus on them and you can do meditative work. Set up your protective circle around, if you're like, I'm going to work and I don't have room for this guilt or this doubt, and you just set up your circle around you and be like, no, you cannot cross into here, this is sacred space. And giving yourself a lot of grace, just a whole lot of grace with, every day is a new challenge. Every day brings with it stuff that you have to do. And some of it might not be creative stuff that you want to do. And you just have to be okay with that and tell yourself, not today, but tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think knowing that you're worth it, if you desire to do something, you have, the ability to do it. Even if it's 10 minutes a day, I think that you can still get a lot out of that. I think I'm reading into your question, obviously. That's not really what you're talking about, but address the guilt in doing something creative and make room for it every day. Yeah, you deserve to have that experience and to know that, and maybe you can carve out more, and that'll tell you like who you really are and empower you to just make that choice more and more often if you enjoy it.
Estrella, I don't think you're reading too much into that. I think that might be actually the crux of that question is, I think that being creative feels like something that's personal just for us. And I think that a lot of people, it's very hard. And it's the same with magic. People, it's personal, right? So people have a hard time carving that time out. And when we do carve that time out, we think to ourselves, oh, well, I really should be, helping the kid with with the homework right now, or I should be, whatever. There's a sink full of dishes. I should probably be doing that instead, or I should be folding laundry or whatever. And it's like, well, okay, yes, those things still need to be done, but we can take the time out to be creative, just like we can take the time out to do our magic. And you're going to get that little voice. Here's the thing, that little voice is going to pop up for you. It's going to be like, hey, why aren't you doing this other thing instead? But here's what I've learned, and this is a new one for me. I just learned it recently, and I found it to be absolutely accurate. The first thought that you have in your head, that's the thought, that's the voice of what you were conditioned to think. The second thought that you have in your head, that's what you really think. So when that first thought comes in and says, why aren't you unloading the dishwasher? Why are you drawing a picture when you could be unloading the dishwasher? That's just what you've been conditioned to think. So it's okay that that happens. Just acknowledge that voice and say, hey, all right, thank you for your input, but that's not helpful. And really say thank you, because what that voice is doing is trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you safe. Mm-hmm. But you could just tell that voice, okay, yes, thank you. That was great, but your input's not helping me right now. So just go away. And then ask yourself, where did that come from? And what's my second thought? Because my second thought is, I want to do this. My second thought is, being creative feeds my soul and makes me more capable of doing all of the other things. Just like carving time out to do your magic feeds your soul and gives you more energy and willingness and joy to do the other mundane things that aren't so much fun, like the dishes and stuff. You've got to have that.
Yeah.
You need it.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Oh, we are running low on time. Okay, final notes. What is the one thing you want folks to know about creativity and our magical craft? I will go first and say that I believe anyone has the power to become an artist. And even when you're not creating art, you are still an artist when you are resting, doing those dishes and whatnot. And you can do it. Just, carve out that time and you're worth it.
Just do it. Just go ahead and do it. And if you need permission, which you don't need permission, but if you need permission, there's 4 witches here today giving you permission to go ahead and do the thing, do the magic, do the creativity. Worst case scenario, it doesn't turn out the way you want it to be, and you can hide it away. Best case scenario, you made some beautiful magic.
Yes, I love that. And to jump off of what you just said, I think that what I would like to leave everybody with is create something. I don't care what it is. And don't do it because you want it to be perfect. Don't do it for somebody else. Just do it. It's the act of creating that's important. How it turns out isn't really that big of a deal. And even those of us who do this for a living, everything we create, you guys don't always see all of it, because not all of it is great. Some of it is just for us, and that's okay. But if you just draw some crazy little thing and it's terrible, who cares? You still created something, and that's what you need to do. Just like you said, Rachel, just do it. Do it.
And have fun, play. This is the thing. We need to get back to really feeding our imagination to allow ourselves to make mistakes. So many people are like, oh, I wanted the thing to look just like this. And then at the end, they're like, but it doesn't look like that. Like, that's what should happen in the creative process is you shoot for the star, right? Here's the star. And then as you journey there, you're like, oh, it's actually this. And so you've learned more by changing and shifting and growing in the process rather than replicating that exact idea. Because what's the fun in replicating that exact idea when there's so much more potential, so much play, so much that you can learn from it? That's the thing about creativity, is that we learn, we grow, we really find our magic in the process.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Well, this has
having
been
us.
amazing, everybody. Thank you to Llewellyn. You know, you can buy our books there. We all have websites. Just look us up, find us on social media. And I really appreciate everyone who asked a question and who chimes in. You all have been so wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank
Hope you have
you.
a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Wish we could have gotten everything.
I
Oh, my part.
think we have a new creative coven here.
Yeah, maybe we can do this again.
Absolutely.
Into it.
Part 2.